To kick off Magical Girl May this year, I want to talk about Madoka's newest gaming foray. Kicking off at the end of March, we got a new iOS Madoka game, and you want it short and sweet? Remember Magia Record's app? Okay, this is the same exact thing, except it's better in every way. Okay, so some things I want to address in this review. Is this game good? Do you need to be a fan of Madoka to play it? Do you need to be a fan of Magia Record to enjoy it? Some gameplay, and other stuff I want to see from it in the future. It is still a gacha game, but what makes this one stand apart from Magia Record's old attempt is the attention to details. And also, let's be real here, the much prettier graphics. Oh my god, this game is gorgeous! Look at how friggin' beautiful these 3D models are! Oh my god! Not gonna lie, when the little tutorial opening started, where it plays out the beginning of Madoka Magica's first episode, but with these 3D models, I was already in love. Though if you're expecting an entire reanimated version of the original show with these 3D models, well, I'm sorry to say that's not exactly what you're gonna get. When I say it's like Magia Record, I mean it. The little 2D character sprites in the cutscenes are incredibly reminiscent of their Magia Record sprites of old. However, there is a little bit more refinement to everyone's art direction, especially with their shading and highlights. But to answer my question, yes, I do think it's good. I've played tons of gacha games before this, and this has been the only one to ever really excite me, to keep my attention longer than a week. A typical element with these games is the ability to fast forward animations to speed up battles, and honestly for this one, I don't even bother using it much. The animations are bright, punchy, and fast enough at normal speed that I feel like the combat has a consistent flow. There has been an announcement recently where the developers say they're going to work on shortening some of the animation times to help speed things up a bit. I'm not sure if that's going to be implemented by the time this video comes out, but even then, I don't have a problem with the animation speeds. Battles feel continually varied throughout the game, and I feel like things move at a consistent enough speed where once I start to get bored of one kind of enemy or location, we move on to a new thing. So, I think it's great, and I adore getting to see the classic Madoka labyrinths jazzed up with these new models. But that dominoes me into the next topic. The short answer is no, technically. So the gameplay starts out with you going through the events of the original show. Each level, or as they're called in this game, windows, is the equivalent to one episode from the anime, give or take. The iconic episode 3 was chopped into 2 windows, for example. So if you don't know anything about the story, this is quite literally a one-to-one retelling of that story. Like, literally, line for line, you can follow the whole story from the anime. So if you don't know anything about what this game is, this will definitely tell you, though I will say, if you start up this game having not watched Madoka Magica and the story intrigues you, I would recommend just watching the anime. It's literally the same exact story, but with like fully animated scenes. Exedra will use screenshots from the anime to help display certain events that their little character sprites just couldn't convey well enough. It works fine, I guess, but it really isn't a substitute for just seeing the scene play out in the real show. Also, sometimes I feel like they frame their screenshots weirdly off-center or like too high up or too low or something, and we just watch the anime. It's beautiful. It's great. Anyways, no, you don't have to be a prior fan of the franchise to enjoy the game. It will explain the important story stuff as you go through the story of the game naturally. But if you are already a fan of the show, you might be thinking, oh, is it just the anime's plot? That's it? Well, don't be discouraged. Part of the fun of Magia Record when it first came out is that it was giving us an entirely new story with entirely new characters. The upside was that classic fans of the show was getting new material and stories to explore. The downside is that it was not very newcomer friendly, expecting you to already know everything about this world and magic systems. Exedra doesn't give us something with quite the same magnitude, but it does still give us something new to the franchise. You will be technically playing as this faceless, nameless girl who can't remember who she was and doesn't know why she's here in the lighthouse. Her only companion and guide towards reclaiming her memories is this guy named AQ. Look, he's green apple flavored now. Ooh. The character asks AQ to give them a name, and like, obviously I named myself Judgmental Critter, but like, could you imagine? Well, AQ, can you give me a name? A name that you think suits me best? Suits you? How about Judgmental? Huh? Judgmental. I think that describes you pretty good. Our unknown girl is just reliving the memories and stories of the other girls, trying to use their stories as a way to jog her own memories back. I think it's a neat little mystery, and I like AQ. It's also a convenient way to have us, the players, explore through a bunch of different plotlines and stories. Watching the opening animation, we'll clearly be going through more than just the original anime's plot, and that's what really excites me. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I've never actually read the other mangas in the Madoka Magica universe. I just don't think the iconic style of this universe works very well in a manga format. But now, this game could be a great way to explore the other stories with a more dynamic visual medium. The app game specifically, because the app game introduced a ton of girls to this world, and there's only 5 girls in the original Holy Quintet. So, of course, this game, to fill out its gacha roster, was going to have a ton of new girls you might not recognize if you haven't engaged with Magia Record at all. And for this part, I'd say it would definitely help if you're more familiar with these other girls, but again, it's not necessary. I'd understand if these new faces felt overwhelming to new players, but the game does a good job letting you get introduced to each girl. As you unlock them, you can click on their portrait to get an episode 0 with them, where they will give you a really quick look at their personality and hint towards what their personal plotlines were all about. And you're incentivized to check out each new girl because watching these episodes will give you Magica Stones, which is the in-game currency used to unlock more characters. I actually really prefer it this way. These quick little episode 0s are so short, it's easy to get through a lot of them right from the get-go. In the original Magia Record, each episode was really long, so once you unlocked like a bunch of new girls, it was a chore sitting down and going through everyone's side stories. If you do want more of a deep dive into a character, you eventually unlock the ability to do so, but I'll tackle the specifics of that more in the gameplay section. One of my biggest gripes with this system, though, is the fact that the girls' transformation scenes are gone. In Magia Record, every time you unlocked a new girl, she'd come with a little animation of her doing her magical girl transformation. It was a very cool, flashy way to give us a taste of what their style and personality would be like. The episode 0s are nice, but really don't have the same pizzazz as these old animations. I really hope they find a way to reincorporate those things back into the game. Maybe like a little button on their profile that you can click to see their transformations. I would really like it if I could click on something that would show me the animation for their big flashy finisher moves too. I'd be fine if the transformations were the same as their old ones, honestly. I just like them. I want to see them again. So no, even if you're unfamiliar with all these characters, the game still makes it easy and rewarding to get acquainted with all of them. Now, on the flip side, if you were a classic longtime fan of the original app game, you might have the opposite opinion. You look at these girls and think, oh, is this it? Like I said, Magia Record introduced tons of characters, and this roster, especially right off the bat, is admittedly much smaller in comparison. I appreciate the variety of girls they gave us, but it was also a little surprising to see some familiar faces I definitely expected the game to launch with were absent. Ayaka, my beloved, I miss you. One thing I do appreciate is that the side stories you unlock with the other characters still includes the girls who are not in the game yet. That's a nice detail, and I appreciate that they didn't try to arbitrarily exclude characters just because they're not playable yet. So yeah, hot off the heels of Magia Record, the selection of girls is a bit disappointingly small, but also, it's not hot off the heels of anything, because Magia Record closed friggin' 4 years ago. And honestly, I'm at the point where I'm just happy to be getting anything. They've also already been giving us much more characters to unlock since the game's release, so I don't think this is going to be a thing to worry about for long. If you're familiar with gacha games, you likely already have a good idea about how the gameplay works. You get Magica Stones, or you could also get rewarded with magical keys to draw a gacha and get characters to play with. There are regular versions of girls, but some of them also have 4-star variations who might play slightly differently. Specifically, the 4-star ones get special finishers that their lower ranked versions don't get. In combat, your magic gauge fills up, and once it's full, your characters can unleash extra big, flashy, fancy moves for bigger damage. It's very satisfying every time. You can skip the animations though if you think they're too long. There's more to combat than just finishers, and this is honestly one of the biggest differences between Exedra and Magia Record that makes me like this game way more. Characters have an element they use. Water, plant, fire, light, dark, and void, as they call it. It's basically just neutral. Enemies have weaknesses, but something I appreciate with these enemies is that they have way more weaknesses. In Magia Record, I would just make teams of one element, like a whole team of just fire types, because depending on the dungeon I was entering, the enemies would only have one weakness. In Exedra, thanks to the fact that there's more weaknesses and variety, I feel like I can play around with including more girls in my team. And honestly, the elemental advantage is a secondary element, because the girls now also have different types of combat. Breaker, attacker, buffer, debuffer, healer, and defender. Enemies will have a shield that needs to be broken before you can start really doing serious damage to them. Breaker specializes in taking out those shields. Attackers are heavy hitters once shields are broken, usually with lower HP though. Buffer and debuffer are self-explanatory, I think, but also enemies can do buffs and debuffs as well, which adds much more needed variety to combat, and I think makes putting buffers and debuffers on the team more of an option. Once I started to realize the enemy's buffs were really holding me back, I'm like, I need to put a debuffer on my team, and so it just opened this new element of gameplay, especially during the boss sections. You might want to prioritize hitting the boss, but if you let the smaller enemies stack up buffs and debuffs, you'll be screwing yourself over. It makes targeting specific enemies much more detailed this way. Healer obviously heals, and defender obviously raises defense. Having a big assortment of combat styles and elemental advantages is now so much more fun. And, like I was saying before, some 4-star versions of girls come with finisher moves, but it also might change what speciality they are. I opted to keep my lower star Sarasa on my team because this version is a breaker and her other version is an attacker. I already had strong attackers on my team, so it's cool even the lower star versions of the girls can still be useful. Some girls can hit multiple times, some girls' special attacks don't deal damage while others do. There's just so much more to pay attention to now. Like, yeah, I could have a team of all water elementals, but what if none of them are breakers? Kokoro is my only defender I got in the gacha, so even if she's not necessarily strong against my opponents, I still want those shields she offers. Honestly, these slight changes to gameplay is huge in the long run. It makes combat so much more exciting, and makes changing out different characters a lot more fun and a lot more reasonable too. I don't feel like I'm stuck using the same girls over and over again. There is more to the game than just combat, but we all know that's what the real meat of what you'll be doing is. I mentioned the windows. Each level has you traversing through an iconic labyrinth, and it's cool getting to see the 3D designs for these locations, including some previously unloved ones like Suika the Darkness Witch, who was little more than a blink and you miss it background detail in episode 3. This is actually the first time we get to see her in action. She previously only existed as concept art before. It's really cool seeing her finally get to shine here. You don't fight in every chapter though, it usually is interchangeable between combat events, story events, and exploration, which is a bit more of an exciting word than what it really is. Our amnesia-stricken main character embodies one of the girls and runs around collecting doodads. Small thing, I like that the run-around animations is different depending on what character you're playing as. It's a nice little extra detail. Anyways, collecting doodads. These can be pictures which you can attach to a girl for upgrades to stats and stuff. Other things will be various currency used to get other kinds of upgrades in the main menus. These exploration segments are fine, but admittedly my least favorite parts. Yeah, it's really cool seeing the labyrinths up close with the new snazzy 3D models, and it's cute seeing the different girl you embody running around, but everything always is just a straight line. There's very few alternate paths you can take, and they always just end in a dead end, so then you just turn back around and go back to where you started. There is battles littered across these areas too, so there's kinda something to do, but don't expect this to be like Genshin or whatever, Breath of the Wild. I guess. There's no open world for you to explore, it's just a very small linear path to break up the visuals and the gameplay a bit. Outside of the main story, there's a few other things you can play with, but they all focus on the combat system as well. My personal favorite is the files. You unlock this after beating the first boss. Look at her! Isn't she so cute in this game? You can get a really good look at her sofa now too, that's fun. Anyways, the files. They're an easy way to upgrade your magical girls specifically for unlocking their backstories and stuff. And you have some options here. You can either give them an item to upgrade their personal stories, or you can do a battle, and that's the equivalent of about one item, but they get more and more stronger as you go through the list of bosses. I appreciate the variety here. If you'd rather just dump a bunch of items into someone to unlock their story, you can. If you'd rather do the battles to do so, you can do that too. If you run out of items, you can attach the girl to a stronger team to use their combat upgrades together, which I personally love this. This means I could swap out my party members for combat, but I can still focus on getting a different girl's side story if I don't want them in my party right now. It's also not just their personal stories you unlock this way either. You can unlock a variety of stat upgrades, voice packs, stuff like that. It helps make it feel like you're not just doing the same thing over and over again. After a while, you unlock the upgrade menus. These are arguably the most important ones in the game. As gachas tend to do, there will be various spikes in difficulty as you keep moving forward. This number here tells you what power level you should have on your team in order to handle this quest. But even if your numbers are higher, you still might start to struggle. That's because your girl's basic attacks, special attacks, HP defense, and magical finishers all need to be upgraded as you move forward too. These rainbow crystal things is how you'll do that. You'll be needing a ton of them if you want to keep your different girls up to speed. Once you run out, you can do these upgrade battles to farm for more. Fortunately, you'll be given a couple of points to skip battles you've already completed every day, so you don't have to sit down and play through the same fights over and over again, at least for a while. This is where the autoplay feature comes in the most handy. While I've been writing these scripts or editing upcoming videos, I'll have my phone next to me, autoplaying to grind through these fights to get the upgrade rewards. There's also events, which are smaller side stories in case you want to break from the main story. Magia Record's biggest problem was how repetitive it got, and Exedra already blows me away with how it remedies this problem. I mentioned how the combat style was one of the biggest reasons I preferred this game to Magia Record. It's so much more robust, and I feel like there's so many more rewards to get and things to work on, and when I get bored of one thing I can just hop over to something else. I have so many options. But that's not the only reason I prefer this game to the original app. Honestly, it's the visuals. Don't get me wrong, the cute little chibi sprites for Magia Record were cute, but also very limited, and it wasn't easy getting special moves to even activate for combat back then either. So gameplay felt like it took a long time, even on fast forward, got repetitive very quickly, and was visually not that exciting. The stunning visuals and bigger emphasis on combat variety makes this game infinitely more engaging to me. It's addictive as hell. I can't stop playing it, and it's so easy to just pick up and grind through a few chapters or do a batch of upgrades. I was worried Exedra was going to be too much like Magia Record in this regard, but I am legitimately blown away at how much I just love playing it. Clearly, I love the game, and being a gacha game, we'll be getting updates and new stuff sooner or later. Here's a little rundown of what I'd like to see in the future, going from most obvious and reasonable to some of the less likely outlandish kind of stuff. First, obviously, more classic characters to make their return. Here's a handful of my favorites that aren't in the game yet. I just really love these ladies, and I hope we see them again soon. On a similar note, I would like to see new girls get introduced too. Real talk, I want a new anime too, or maybe even just a remaster or remake of the original, like Sailor Moon Crystal, but better than that one, but I'll just keep it to Exedra for now. I want new girls, new fun stories, I love this world, and I want more. But even then, just seeing some of my old favorite classics returning would be awesome too. I think more combat styles could be fun. Don't get me wrong, I think Breaker, Attacker, Buffer, Debuffer, Healer, and Defense work perfectly fine already, but I think playing around with others could also be a fun way to keep things fresh and different. Like, what about a wild card kind of class? That's sort of a jack-of-all-trades, red mage kind of deal. Or maybe like a boss killer class that's more effective against bosses, but is worse against the smaller enemies. I don't know, food for thought. I don't think Doppels are in the game yet, but the development team are talking about incorporating Magia Record story into the app in a future update. I don't know how Doppels would work combat-wise, maybe just like an alternate finishing move, but I like the Doppels a lot and I would love to see them again, especially with this new game's beautiful 3D models. Now we're going to start dipping into the territory of things I don't really expect, but I think it would be cool and I want to talk about it. I think an actual exploration-based area would be neat, some sort of open world-like thing you could freely run around in. It could work like a last as long as you can kind of thing, where you run into monsters who get stronger and stronger and you go until your team wipes out for a high score. I think some sort of customization feature would also be very cool. I think everything looks fantastic as is. I actually adore the style of the lighthouse, but I don't know, maybe like give us the option to change a decoration somewhere in the lighthouse. Maybe a specific room, like a bedroom, you could decorate and put stuff in. At the very least, I think accessories for my Amnesia character and AQ would be fun. Like imagine AQ in a cute little bow. That'd be cute. That's adorable. Lastly, I think some other gameplay option would be a really neat change of pace. Nothing crazy, honestly. Maybe just like a little mini game kind of deal, like Tetris or a picture puzzle or whatever. Just something to break up the combat every now and then, other than just story-related stuff. I love the game. I think it's great. I'm intrigued by the story, but also love getting to see the old classic stories in this beautiful new 3D style. I think this is a huge improvement for Magia Record, and I cannot give enough praise to the team behind making this game possible. Just, like, look at it. You can see how much love and detail they went into putting this all together. I cannot recommend it enough, and I can't wait to see what else they have in store for us moving forward. Let me know what you think if you've played it. Who's your favorite character in the game? What's your game strategies? Any and all thoughts and opinions, I would love to see them in the comments below. Shout out to my $10 patrons, you're all amazing. Andrew, Valhalla Knight, Chamomile, Classy Critic, Genital War Thunder, Jake, Amber, Hype Man, Isaiah, Scaring Crows, Not All That Evil, Holly, Messiah, Jacob, Ben's Sketchbook, Rain, Trash, Wild Pilot, Josh, Twisty, Juan, Bunkin' Duncan, Hoodie Angel, Ranger, Hutmut Butt, Primaroon, Steve, Overhypen, Plague, Unspoken, Tyrene, Thanos, Pandemonium, Peter, Agiri, Shahid, Eden, the Eliza, Minnie, Liv Lobotomy Sane, Doki Pokey, Fanboy, and myself. So yeah, what do you think? By the time I'm recording my audio, I'm at the Silver Witch Labyrinth, but I haven't gotten to the boss yet. I can't wait to see her. She's gonna be so cool. I can't wait to see what else they have in this game. How far are you? Like, what level are you are? If you have any strategies, share them in the comments. Let's help each other out, get, like, further and stronger. I can't wait to see what else they have in this game. I love it. Let me know what you think. Any and all thoughts and opinions, leave them in the comments below. I can't wait to see them, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.